is a challenge which is there from the business to utilize our current assets and current brands. We therefore thought, even as a market research, researcher, how do we make sure that when we do this research, we should get these answers as well? That so when we do even foundation exploratory research, we need to go back to our boards and tell that whether we can still use our current assets or we need completely different assets, and who best to give that answer other than the consumer. So therefore our effort was to make sure that while we understand habits and behaviors, can we also understand, at the back of the same kind of studies, whether the ideas work with the current brand or the ideas need a new leg or a new brand or a new asset. Yeah. And therefore, at the very beginning, we tried to answer to the board of this organization that whether the current brands can work or we need new brands or new brand or a new mega brand. Right. From the feel of the market, we already knew that there is something disruptive going on in this country. Yeah. And consumers' choices are not limited anymore to the existing brands, but for any new thing, they are open now to experiment with new brands. And we were seeing this. And if you are looking at new spaces, now you cannot anymore ignore that consumer reality and still believe that traditional brands, once revived, will do an amazing job. No, it's not that. People are looking for new things. Dynamic India is looking for new things. That the choice set has enormously expanded, almost like it's disrupted, right, with all the new channels and all that. So therefore, we built in within our traditional studies measurements of new brands and versus old brands. And the ongoing hypothesis was traditional brands will bring in more credibility when we move into new spaces. Yeah. And that was our ongoing assumption. Yeah. So we believed in the traditional. We put that in our research, even in our measurements and all that. And we were seeing that whether the research proves it otherwise, whether the research breaks that hypothesis, whether research disrupts that myth. And because of the smart way we used to think of every research we invest in, we actually figured out that the new stuff, the new brands, were actually giving us much more, not only sometimes much more relevance or uniqueness, but also higher credibility. Yeah. So quantitatively, we could prove at a very, very early stage that why we need new brands, and the old theory of marketing efficiency with old brands as measured in, let's say, different kinds of marketing models or different kind of measurement models, why those things cannot be true when we move into new spaces, especially. There in those cases, the past is not anymore good to predict the future. Yeah. And therefore, interventions at a real time into the market with bold experimentations of new versus old, and seeing whether the traditional hypothesis is broken or disrupted by the consumers is very, very important for us. And we saw that almost for 80% of the innovations we were experimenting with, we were seeing that 80% of those actually had significantly higher scores on believability or credibility with the new brand, because consumers, they have a lot of associations with current brands. And with the new space you want to go into, they don't really want to give that license to this old brand. Plus, the new reality of this consumer is he or she is experimentative. He or she wants to experiment. So just being attached always to the old brand might be a bit boring. Yeah. And therefore, experimenting with new benefits, new brands, new tonalities is actually good. So new spaces, therefore, requires new kinds of interventions. And this is very, very important to find out at the very onset, rather than leaving these things when the design perspective of the brand comes.